We've just gone to the morning break on day 3 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1. We've been hearing from Imran Khan, the lawyer representing a whole bunch of people. He started off by giving the opening statements on behalf of Suresh Grover of the monitoring group, really sort of highlighting how the monitoring group, which is a community group concerned with fighting racism and supporting victims of racist attacks, was considered really by the police and by the SDS, the Spycops, as being having a secret agenda of trying to abolish the police. He pointed out that the disclosure to Suresh has been only since 1998, yet that intelligence itself contains references to earlier intelligence on him. You're talking about his previous activities. It's not credible that that's when the intelligence reports by undercover officers on Suresh started. It was kind of really sort of brought home a lot of the ways in which that these kind of the being engaged in civil society is a form of criminality as far as the police are concerned, particularly when it's a person of colour who's doing it. Then we heard about the Blacklist Support Group. The Blacklist Support Group is an organisation that was put together by blacklisted workers, following the revelation that that there had been a construction blacklist of trade union activists who had been targeted by these organisations and that were taking information from undercover cops. Really kind of highlighted the fact that Dave Smith, who's the secretary of the Blacklist Support Group, isn't being called to give evidence, despite the fact that he's willing to. And if the inquiry is going to take blacklisting seriously, which I think it's been shown through over the last 10 years of evidence that vetting, as they call it, or blacklisting as we call it, was really a key role of what the Spycops were doing. You talked about the UK vetting service, how 200,000 people a year are vetted by the British state for private corporations. I mean, this practice started off as an illegal thing being done by small companies. I might say small as in they were they were huge operations. And now the state has taken it on, and there's a huge political sort of nature to that. It was pointed out that the definition of subversion that John Major used in the 90s to describe why blacklisting was necessary was the same definition of subversion we've heard so many of the undercover police use to describe why they were allowed to do so many of the things that they did. Then he gave the opening statement on behalf of Baroness Doreen Lawrence. She talked about the way that she's had to fight for so many years after the racist murder of her son, about the way in which that her family was viewed as the problem by the police, much more so than the racist attackers who murdered her son, about how the dirty tricks by the press on her family were aided and abetted by the cops. I think everybody knows the Stephen Lawrence story, but it is so appalling, and the way in which she was targeted by the cops merits a lot of apologies. She's had some apologies, they've meant nothing. She had another apology on Monday, apologising for the lack of apology because they said they have to wait and see what the evidence shows, which is laughable, seeing the evidence all comes from the police and that they know exactly what they did. She rejects that apology, it's not worth the paper it's written on. He then gave the opening statements on behalf of Michael Mansfield KC, introduced as the devil incarnate, which Peter Francis has said is how the SDS officers and managers referred to Michael Mansfield. Michael Mansfield is like the premier activist lawyer in the UK. He's represented pretty much since the Angry Brigade, pretty much every high-profile miscarriage of justice, state misference case in the UK. Given 4, Birmingham 6. I mean, too many to name. It was really asked that why somebody who's practicing the upholding of the law in the way in which the law is meant to be done is considered a form of criminality by the police. Really kind of shown that once again, pointing out that failure to call HN81 is an absolute dereliction of duty. a real failure by the inquiry, and if the inquiry really wants to correct that, it needs to call the politicians, the members of the Home Office, the ministers who were really at the top of the pile when it came to what the way that the police were directed to target political campaigners and lawyers. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously very fulsome, as ever with these opening statements, particularly one being delivered by such an eminent KC as Imran Khan. It's very difficult to report in detail as we go along. We're just having a really short break. I'm not going to be too long because James Wood will be next. He's representing Tish Reel, Sujef Reel, MWS, MSS, Karen Doyle, Alex Hollande. After him will be James Colby KC, representing Lois Austin, Dave Nellis and Hannah Sell. So that's the second half of this morning's hearings. There'll be an afternoon hearing as well. Hopefully today will be finished slightly earlier than the last couple of days. I'll be doing, when I finished covering today's hearings live, I'll be just doing like a recap reel of the day, which, if you're able to share it, is really, really useful. Thank you for everybody who shared yesterday's one and the day before's one. I guess that's going to be like my attempt to do like these, they'll all be less than 5 minutes, and really just recap what we've heard from the day. I'm trying to break out of the bubble of those who are really engaged in the inquiry. The inquiry's been going for 10 years now. I've been reporting on it live every single day that it's sat, and I really want to sort of increase the visibility beyond the activist bubble of people who were affected, and the kind of political geeks who are, engaged with this sort of stuff. So thanks to everybody who shared it in the past. I do these videos on Facebook and TikTok live, and then I share that I'm reporting live on Twitter whilst the hearings are going on in text form. So thanks for sharing. I'll see you all in an hour or two.